This is a short course in scale. Scale is around us all of the time. Every time you see some miniature thing, it is more than likely a scale replica. Some of you have built models of things, and some of the toys that you had as children were little scale models of the real things. If any of you had Hot Wheel cars or dollhouses, most of what goes into them is a scale representation of a real thing. For instance, this is a die-cast model of a McDonnell Douglas DC-3, a commercial aircraft first flown in 1935. The real thing was 64 feet 8 inches long and had a wingspan of 92 feet. Obviously, this isn't the real thing. This is a little die-cast model and is what's known as a 1/72nd scale model. So what does that mean? Well, quite simply, it means that if you lined up 72 of these little models end to end, you would have the actual length of the real plane. If you lined up 92 of them side to side, you would have the width of the plane, wingtip to wingtip. Now this is a somewhat larger model of a Willys station wagon Jeep circa 1955. In real life, this is close to 15 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 6 feet tall. I know that because I used to own one. This model is obviously not the same scale as the plane. Look at the size of the door on the Jeep versus the door on the little plane. It's much larger at 1/18th scale. Again, line up 18 of these end to end and you would have the exact length of the real thing. So, what we're dealing with is scale as well, but it's a somewhat different scale, an architect scale. Now, I've pulled together a couple of examples of something that I did in scale, actually two versions of the same thing, just to show you how this works. Here is a model of a cabin that I constructed from memory. It is something that I am very familiar with and stems from my childhood in northern Michigan. It's an old hunting cabin, which was on some property that my family used to own. As I said, I made this from memory, but I have some old photos of it inside and out that has helped me to recreate this. This model is 1/2 inch equals 1 foot scale. What that means is that every half of an inch on this model measures and represents 1 foot in real life. Now this cabin was small, only about 15 feet wide by approximately 25 feet long, and was divided into 2 rooms. You can't really tell that by looking at this overall model with its roof on. But if we look at this diagram that I've done, you can see both of the rooms. Now this diagram is drawn to show you what is called a floor plan, along with a representation of all of the exterior walls of the cabin laid out right alongside of the floor plan. Now the floor plan is what I'm asking you guys to do as part 1 of assignment 5. This diagram is drawn at 3/8 inch equals 1 foot in scale. You can plainly see that this flattened diagram is smaller than the constructed model, but they are both of the same thing. That is because the scale of the diagram is smaller than the constructed model. However, they scale out to the same dimension. Sound confusing? Let me explain. To do that, I'm going to take a few minutes and cut this flat diagram out to demonstrate something else about what it represents, and hopefully that will help clarify a lot of your confusion. Back in just a few minutes. You can watch, I'll speed this up. Now that the flattened diagram of the cabin has been freed from the flat sheet, I can show you why I drew it this way. Notice that each of the sides of the flat floor plan has a representation of a wall that represents it. If I turn the diagram over and score very lightly along the sides where these walls occur, I can fold them up just like the sides of a box. What these walls represent is what architects refer to as an elevation drawing, or the walls of the floor plan stood on end and drawn at the same scale as the floor plan. This helps you to see not only how much space there is in the room, but how tall the walls are, where the doors and the windows are located, and other things. This then is a smaller version of the larger model, and when I fold all the walls up and apply a small piece of tape at the corners, you can see that it is just a smaller version of the same thing, a miniature of a miniature. Just like how the airplane scale model is a smaller representation of the real thing and done at a scale smaller than that of the model of the little Jeep. Now, I'm going to fold the 3/8 inch scale model back flat again so that I can ask you some questions about this, and to do that, we will be looking at some images that I took of it right after I put this video together. I will have it laid out flat again, and I will have my architect scale laid on it, and I will ask you to tell me how long something is or how tall it is. Now I recognize that this is a different scale than I'm asking you to work in at 1/4 of an inch equals a foot scale for your floor plans, but everything should relate in exactly the same way. I'll even throw in a couple of images towards the end of this very same thing done at 1/4 inch equals a foot scale, just like yours, to prove to you just how it is just the same thing, only just a little bit smaller still. A miniature of a miniature of a miniature. Hope this helps. See you in a few minutes.